Our film begins with two guys named Cobb and Arthur, and we see them sitting eating with a businessman named C.E.O. They offer to train his subconscious to protect himself and his ideas from dream infiltrators. Cobb tells him that in order to do this, they must understand everything about him and his thoughts. C.E.O. laughs mockingly, doubting them because they are dream infiltrators themselves. He gets up from the table, telling them he will consider their proposal. We realize all of this is actually within C.E.O.'s dream as they are scamming him. In the dream, Cobb's ex-wife Mel appears, and from their conversation we figure that he still loves her but doesn't trust her. Cobb tries to escape through a window using a rope to reach C.E.O.'s office to steal the information he needs, but Mel ruins the plan, informing C.E.O. of their intentions. They catch Cobb holding Arthur hostage. Cobb decides to kill Arthur in the dream to wake up in reality. The dream starts collapsing as C.E.O. begins to wake up. However, Cobb manages to grab the papers he needs and tries to read them quickly before the dream ends, but then Arthur has to wake Cobb up, ending the dream because C.E.O. is awake and attacks them. C.E.O. wakes up indeed, and Cobb and Arthur manage to stop him. They then go to C.E.O.'s private apartment to extract secret information from him. Outside, we notice chaos, with people protesting. Cobb is forced to attack C.E.O., and when he knocks him down, C.E.O. realizes he's in a dream because the carpet on the floor isn't his. Then, the protesters attack the house and C.E.O. realizes the subconscious is defending him. Arthur and Cobb wake up in a van, but C.E.O. remains asleep. They quickly escape before C.E.O. wakes up. On their way to escape, they bumped into C.E.O. waiting for them, so they boarded the plane with him. He informs them he needs them for a job to implant ideas into someone's mind. Arthur tells him it's impossible, but Cobb insists it's just extremely difficult. Later, Arthur and Cobb decide not to go through with the job, but C.E.O. reminds Cobb that if he completes the task, he can clear all charges against him and return to America to see his children again. Cobb returns to the plane and asks C.E.O. about the job. C.E.O. explains that his competitor is an old man on the edge of death who has a son who will inherit his company. He wants his son to believe he is taking his father's empire down. Arthur tries to convince Cobb to withdraw, but Cobb continues speaking with C.E.O., questioning what guarantees he has that C.E.O. will fulfill his promise. C.E.O. replies that there are no guarantees and Cobb must trust him. Cobb sits with Arthur, who is uneasy about such operations. Cobb reassures him that he has done similar operations before but needs deeper insight into the ideas. Cobb assures him that he will carry out the job. Now they need a new architect because the old one betrayed them. Afterward, Cobb goes to Professor Miles and asks for his help because he is an engineer and a dream designer who knows how to enter people's mind. Miles asks him why he won't pull it off himself, and Cobb tells him that Mel will interfere and that he needs a skilled architect. Miles introduces him to a girl named Ariadne and tells her that Cobb will offer her a good deal. He gives her a maze to solve, then he takes her and they go to a cafe in a dream in Paris where he tells her that he needs her to create the dream world. Then they will bring in the subject, enter the dream, and fill it with subconscious projections. Ariadne is surprised and asks how they will do it. Cobb asks her how long they have been in the cafe or how they got here, making her nervous. Cobb tells her that they are in a dream, and once she gets that, everything gets demolished around her. The street, buildings, and even the sky. Everything is bending over. When she wakes up, she finds herself in a workshop with a device attached to her, which is what puts her into the dream. They agree that she will enter the dream again for 5 minutes to see what she can do. She realizes that 5 minutes in the dream equals an hour. When they enter the dream, Cobb is with her and explains that she will design everything in the dream. When Cobb gets angry at her in the dream, everyone starts attacking her, and Mel appears and kills her. Ariadne wakes up and is very shaken by what happened. Arthur tells her she needs a totem to ensure she's not in someone else's dream. She refuses, saying that Cobb has deep-seated issues in his subconscious and she can't open her mind to someone like that. She gets up and leaves, but Arthur assures Cobb that she will come back. After that, Cobb travels to meet Eames. The dream forger Cobb informs him that he needs to plant an idea in someone's mind and tells more about it in detail. Eames tells him he's tried it before but it failed. They brainstorm ideas to make the operation successful. They agree they first need to start with his relationship with his father. Then they will implant the idea into the deepest part of the brain and allow it to grow until it's fully implanted. Eames mentions a chemist named Yusuf who will provide them with compounds to enter a deepest dreams like a dream dream inside a dream. Meanwhile, Ariadne returns to Arthur and tells him she will continue the operation. Arthur enters a dream with her and starts to introduce her to the strange shapes she's supposed to create, like the peculiar staircases. He tells her Cobb isn't the one designing because Mel shouldn't recognize her as well. He tells her that Mel is his wife, but she's dead, and all they see are memories from his subconscious. We see Eames and Cobb with the chemist Yusuf, who tells them the operation will be very difficult because it will be a series of dreams nested. Yusuf tells them that hours will feel like weeks in the first dream, 6 months in the second dream, and 10 years in the third dream, which might make them lose track of whether they are in a dream or reality. They then prepare for the plan and show C.E.O their plan, including a picture of their competitor, the old man, and his son Robert. C.E.O informs them that their relationship isn't good, especially after Robert's mother's death. Eames understands Robert's psychology and decides to enter the first stage of the dream as his father's assistant, Browning. Afterward, we see Ariadne creating her totem in the shape of a chess piece. She then goes to Cobb, who tells her that the spinning top he has with him belongs to his deceased wife, Mel, and it never stops spinning throughout the dream. So when he needs to know if he is dreaming, he spins the spinning top. If it eventually stops, then it's reality. If it continues to spin, then it's a dream. The team gathers to review the plan together and realizes that Robert's hatred for his father might not be the main reason for the Inception's future. Yusuf then tells them about a powerful sedative, and to wake up from it, they will need to experience a strong kick. They agree that the operation will start on a flight to Los Angeles that night. At night, Ariadne sees Cobb in a dream and decides to enter it, where she finds him with his wife, telling her that's the only way he can see his wife and children. They exited the dream after Mel was about to attack Ariadne. They then initiate the operation as if nothing ever happened, all boarding the plane as strangers on the same flight with Robert. It was the first time they had seen Robert in person. Cobb sits behind Robert. When the flight attendant brings Robert a drink, Cobb slips the sedative into it. Once Robert falls asleep, they hook up the devices and enter the first dream, where it's raining heavily, finding themselves all in a car. C.E.O and Arthur leaves them to catch a taxi, forcing Robert to ride with them. When C.E.O later pulls a gun on him, Robert realizes he is being kidnapped and gives them everything he has. Meanwhile, armed men attack Arthur and C.E.O, who have Robert with them, leading to a violent chase. During the chase, C.E.O gets shot. They then find a safe place. Cobb gets angry at Arthur for not doing his job and investigating Robert's past as he should have. At that time, Robert is in extreme pain, so Ames suggests killing him to wake up in the real world. However, Cobb stops him because the sedative they're using is too potent. If he dies in the dream, he will go into limbo. Cobb is the only one who knows this information, but he keeps it from them, causing them all to become nervous. They continue with the plan. Cobb and Arthur, masked and disguised, enter the room where Robert is held. He offers them money to let him go. However, they inform him that it's not about the money. They need the secret combination to his father's safe. Robert claims he doesn't know anything about it, but they tell them that his father's assistant, Browning, informed them that he knows the combination. Suddenly, Eames enters as Browning to Robert, as if he too is being held captive. Robert tells Browning he doesn't know the safe combination. At that time, Ariadne confronts Cobb in front of C.E.O, warning her that if he dies, there is a very high chance he will wake up nuts, lose his mind, and become insane. We return to Ames as Browning tells Robert that the safe contains a very valuable gift, his father's will to dismantle the empire. Robert was sitting there confused and wondering why would his father do that. At that moment, Cobb tells Ariadne about a time he was with Mel, his deceased wife, and how he wanted to dive deeper into a dream than ever before, not yet realizing that hours in reality meant years in a dream. When they reached the shores of their subconscious, they couldn't distinguish between reality and dream. They then created their own world and stayed there for 50 years. Cobb became very tired of it, but Mel decided to live and forget she was in a dream, hiding her totem in a safe within the dream. When they woke up from the dream, Mel couldn't differentiate between reality and the dream anymore. She wanted to kill herself, believing it would bring her back to reality because she still felt like she was in a dream. On their anniversary, Cobb decides to surprise her with dinner, but when he arrives, he finds her sitting on the windowsill writing a letter to her lawyer saying that Cobb wants to kill her, and then she asks him to jump with her. He refused to jump and tried to stop her because they were in reality while she thought they were in a dream. He tried to stop her, but she jumped before he could reach her. Afterward, the lawyer informs him that he will be tried for murder as they couldn't prove that Mel was was insane, making it difficult to prove Cobb's claim that she went mad, so he leaves everything behind and his children and decides to escape. Back again with Robert, he gets asked for the combination number, but he still insists he knows nothing about it. They demand he tell them any numbers that come to mind, so he mentions any number. Then they put a mask on him, drug him, and take him away from the place they're in because Robert's subconscious knows their location and attacks them. After that, they move into the car and enter the second dream. At that time, Robert is sitting with a blonde girl and talking. Suddenly, Cobb enters and introduces him to Robert, revealing that the girl with him stole from him. Then he tells him he's the security chief of his subconscious and is here to protect him. At that moment, we see C.E.O, who is fine. We go back to the first dream and see Yusuf escaping from Robert's subconscious. In the second dream, Cobb is running with Robert from his subconscious and tells him they're here to apprehend them. Arthur and Ariadne go to the room and set explosives in it for the kick that will bring them back. Cobb takes Robert to the bathroom and makes him remember the first dream, telling him that that dream is actually reality. He makes him remember the safe's combination. Then he sees Eames and the real Browning in Robert's subconscious, so they capture him, and Robert learns that Browning is trying to open the safe to take the will and tells him that his father's idea is a bad one because he wants to make his own future and his father has a large empire. But Cobb tells Robert that he is lying, so they decide to drug Browning and enters his dream to find out what he's hiding. Then they drug Robert to enter his subconscious. Then they enter Browning's dream. Then Robert enters the third dream. We see Yusuf still in the first dream and the car is about to fall. In the second dream, Arthur doesn't know how to walk because the ground is rotating and his only concern is to protect his team from Robert's subconscious. The rest are in the third dream and in Antarctica, planning for Robert to reach his father. The plan is for Eames to distract Robert's subconscious, C.E.O to take Robert to where he is, and Ariadne to be with Cobb. We notice that C.E.O is getting a little tired because of the gunshot he took in the first dream. We see Yusuf playing music in the first dream, which makes Arthur and Cobb nervous because it means things are going wrong with Yusuf. So they decide to move faster. Then Yusuf jumps out of the car after 10 seconds, so they wake up and get up. In the second dream, Arthur still has 10 minutes left to perform the kick. In the third dream, they still have an hour ahead of them. In the third dream, Ariadne realizes that Eames has set up a ventilation system they could use. She tells C.E.O to take Robert to that place. At that time, Eames was facing Robert's subconscious. In the first dream, Yusuf jumps out of the car, so Arthur flies in the second dream. Since there's no gravity in his dream, he struggles to hit something. In the third dream, the ice collapses. So Robert and C.E.O activate the ventilation system. Arthur ties up everyone with him in the second dream so he can knock them out. In the third dream, Robert sees the safe, but suddenly Mel appears behind him and hits Robert with fire. Then Cobb appears and kills her. At that moment, Arthur throws everyone with him into the elevators. In the third dream, the rest go to Robert because he is dying. At that time, Ariadne realizes that it's impossible to go into a fourth dream because Robert would be fine there. So Eames has to create something to kick them out of the fourth dream. Ariadne and Cobb enter the fourth dream and find themselves in Cobb's world where he was with Mel. There, they look for Mel to find out Robert's location. Arthur then places explosives around the elevators to explode so that the elevators fall and everyone inside gets knocked around. Then Ariadne and Cobb enter a house in the fourth dream and find Mel there. She insists that they stay in this world with her. Cobb realizes that she was the first to plant an idea and it seemed real, but it was not, and she committed suicide. We see C.E.O dying in the third dream and Eames shocks Robert to let him know it's getting over. Then Mel asks Cobb to stick around with her and she'll tell him Robert's location, so he agrees. They manage to reach Robert and Ariadne throws him out of the window to wake up in the third dream. The first dream is already over as the car has fallen into the water. In the second dream, Arthur detonates the bomb on the elevator. In the third dream, we see C.E.O dying. Robert goes to his dying father who expresses regret for what he did to him and points out to the safe, revealing its combination to his beloved son. The safe opens, revealing a will and a paper fan, which deeply affect Robert at the same time his father dies. At that moment, all the dreams collapse and the whole team falls. Cobb is in the fourth dream, so he goes to C.E.O who died in the third dream only to find him aged and waiting for him for years to bring him back. Then they return to the second dream where they're thrown around because of the explosives, so they wake up in the first dream. Afterwards, they all wake up on the plane. C.E.O fulfills his promise promise to Cobb, and Robert decides to execute the idea implanted by Cobb and his team. Then Cobb safely travels to his children in America. When he arrives home to his father who welcomed him, he spins the top, not believing he is home, and sees his children embracing them. And that's it. If you like this recap, hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel to keep seeing content like this one. If you have any requests or thoughts, drop them below in the comment section, and we will see you in the next one. Peace out.